Fintech Chatter. Brought to you by Tier 1 People, leaders in Fintech executive search. Welcome to another episode of Fintech Chatter, the show where I connect with fintech leaders for a bit of a chat. I'm your host, Dexter Cousins. Now the world is open again, we can all travel. But the increased cost and the economic downturn is making that dream holiday a very distant dream. Cue PlanPay, a fintech unlocking a world of travel experiences by splitting future bookings into flexible installments. What I love about their solution is it's using your own money rather than credit. Backed by Touch Ventures, PlanPay operates a two-sided marketplace model. And I'm joined by their CEO, Gary Burrows, to talk about how the business has survived and evolved through COVID. Gary also shares his experiences moving from large tech platforms to a startup, and also some of his tips on how to grow a business during a downturn. But before I chat to Gary, I get a lot of questions about how I produce the podcast. I'm a bit of a production nerd, so I usually do it myself, but it's a lot of work. So if you're looking to have a professionally produced podcast, I want to give a quick shout out to Josh at Ampil, who took care of the recording for today's show. Based out of Tank Stream Labs in Sydney's Startup Hub, if you're thinking about starting a podcast and want it to sound and look professional, Josh can do the whole thing. You simply turn up and talk. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to find out more. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Dexter. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm going to be gentle with you. I believe this is your first ever podcast.
Superb. I appreciate that.
Great to have you with us. Quite timely as well, given some of the events this week in the media and the kind of buy now, pay later space. But I know what you're going to say to me. So why don't you tell us a little bit about PlanPay and what you are, but also what you're not?
Absolutely. So thanks. The news came out this week with regards to regulation around BNPL. Let's start off with PlanPay is not buy now, pay later. We're not a credit facility. We're not a debt facility. We have essentially digitized the original format of layaway or lay-by, where we allow the consumer to pay upfront. We work specifically within the travel industry at the minute. So they pay upfront in installments prior to travel using their own funds. So there's no penalties, late fees, credit. It is the smarter way to pay. I guess the best way to explain what we do is if you envision you're a consumer, you're wanting to stay in Sydney, you're booking sort of 6 months ahead of travel. You'd like to stay at Overlow, Woolloomooloo, you can go to their website and inside of the checkout, our widget would pop up. You've booked all your travel. We'll allow you to choose, do you want to pay weekly, monthly, fortnightly? You go ahead and activate your plan. And over the period of time that you've chosen, you would just make those payments. That's all been digitized and it's tokenized off the card. You use your own funds. When you go on that travel, you don't have to stress about the debt post-travel. Yeah. That's already been taken care of.
Awesome. Now, I remember in the UK, kind of the Boxing Day, you'd get all these holiday ads. You'd go to the travel agent, you'd book your holiday, and then, you'd kind of commit to paying however much out of your wage packet that week to go to the travel agent. How does it work from your kind of logistics perspective? Is it just like a after pay experience, or is it a bit different?
It works across multiple channels. So we always envisioned that we would be an online-only business. We'd sit inside the checkout of the best travel websites in the world. But COVID has changed a lot of the way that people interact with the way that they choose to travel. Millennials and Gen Y have actually increased their reliance on going to travel agents and working with them in a face-to-face environment. So we've built our product to be omni-channel. You could either transact online through your favorite websites, or you could go to your local travel agent and sit with them in a face-to-face environment, build out your trip and activate your plan. We've just digitized everything. So we've taken the traditional format, which was very admin intensive, a lot of documentation. You had to be reminded to make the payments on your weekly or monthly payments. We've digitized all of that. From a merchant point of view, you have a beautiful portal that tracks the payments that come through to you. You can run financial reports. It integrates with all of your financial systems. And as a consumer, we've built a beautiful customer-facing app and portal. You can track your payments, update your payments, and we're kind of like your personal trainer of keeping you on track to reach that goal. So we've digitized what traditional layaway was and made it simple, user-friendly, and beautiful to use.
So you mentioned there COVID. Was PlanPay conceived before COVID?
Absolutely. So PlanPay as it is today wasn't conceived before COVID, but the model was founded sort of 6 years ago, was called Layaway Travel, founded by Andrew Peichel. And essentially they wanted to be an online travel agency offering this form of payment. So for the first 3 years of the business, the only way that you could purchase travel through layaway travel was with this payment method. Prior to COVID, unfortunately, sort of 2 weeks before COVID, Touch Ventures, which is the Afterpay founded fund, bought out the business, layaway travel, and then COVID hit. So there was kind of this period of readjusting. It got rebranded to Play Travel. And then through that journey, we kind of launched PlanPay and we're taking it to market.
So it's been a torrid, I guess, period for the travel industry. How have you been able to, I guess, kind of support your customers in this kind of, I guess, rejuvenation that's happening now around travel?
Travel is absolutely resilient. And what COVID taught us, everyone talks about revenge travel. I think as humans, we were locked away for so long. We've moved away from the economy of things and we're moving towards the economy of experiences, gathering experiences. Travel is bucking the trend where everyone else is, the disposable income is sort of tightening the belts with regards to inflationary prices and talk of recession. Travel is absolutely flying. Skift released a report this week. Majority of travel businesses globally and travel tourism destinations are back to pre-pandemic levels, which is great. What we want to do is enable consumers to still experience that travel in a financially responsible way. Debt is extremely high at the minute. As consumers or travelers, we're almost punished in if we don't have the funds to make that purchase now, we're going to lose out on a great price or a great deal. So we have to almost put ourselves into debt to afford that travel. And we're saying, why do we have to do that? Why can't we use our own funds, pay it over a certain period of time? With PlanPay, you can pay off over 2 years. So you can really build out the timeline and the price. So we sell or we finance the ability to go on a cruise for $18,000, $36,000 and you pay it off over a 2-year period. That's how we're helping consumers is still being able to afford the travel that they want to experience over this period of time.
Awesome. Now, I'm a business owner as well as a consumer. Business travel, it's kind of gone through the roof for the last 12, 18 months. Is this just for consumers? Are you open to business and corporates as well?
We're open to that, but we have focused it on the consumer side. There's 3 things that we wanted to achieve for the travel industry. And if we talk about merchants and business owners, over the course of the years, the travel industry has lagged behind from technology. They have big legacy systems. They haven't innovated the way that the rest of the verticals or industries have. In fact, there's a report out from Travelport where travel industry is ranked below finance, mortgages, and restaurants around innovation. So they know that they have to catch up with what's happening. But in that same period of time, your large OTAs, your Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Expedias, or your Godias, they've taken over the online space in acquiring consumers and driving them to hospitality owners. But they're losing 18 to 35% margin on every booking that happens. So there's the shift of trying, as a hospitality owner, how do you get consumers back to your website? That's what we believe that we can solve. We drive PlanPay customers back to their website and not to the OTA. Right. Lead times. So COVID has changed the way that we as consumers book. The average lead time for a hotel or for domestic flights is less than 22 days. So we're making a decision within 22 days to book and travel. Creates enormous issues for hotel owners, airlines, because they can't plan from a staffing perspective, pricing. PlanPay helps consumers to book in advance, so we drive the lead times. Average lead time for a PlanPay consumer is 210 days prior to travel. So helping the industry from that point of view. And then average basket size, we see about a 4 times average basket size for consumers who use PlanPay, because you have the ability to break down the cost and increase the average order size.
Awesome. So with, I guess the model that you have, it's kind of like a two-sided marketplace. B2C fintech in Australia is notoriously very, very difficult. How have you gone about kind of driving customers to PlanPay?
So we're very lucky that we started off with an already engaged base through layaway travel and through the online travel business that we had. So we sit with over 80,000 engaged customers who've been using PlanPay over the last 45 years. And now it's educating that consumer that the form of payment that they've always loved through Play Travel, they can now start using on other travel providers. So we've shifted the branding. We now know them as PlanPay customers, not just as Play Travel customers. And as we roll on merchants, so we've started with Overlow Hotel Group, a great innovative hotel brand. They're really focused on driving a great customer experience, not just through the hotel, not just through their food offerings, but through their payment strategies and how they acquire customers. Our next customer will be EVT. So that's all the Ridges, the QTs, Threadbow. So within the next sort of 8 to 12 months, we probably have 600 to 1,000 hotels. We'll have airlines and different content providers. So it's really about shifting that customer and saying, you've always loved the PlanPay option. You can now take that to multiple travel websites and drive it from that point of view. So we've been very lucky to have that base. I believe that the consumer is looking for a new way to pay and a responsible way to pay. And once we educate that base in Australia, we believe there's going to be really great traction.
Do you think then, I guess, the news this week around regulation, around buy now, pay later, actually works to your advantage?
It does. It is a headwind. And it's a headwind in the entire market at the minute. Like we said, debt's expensive, interest rates are rising. There's a lot of pressure on the household. Consumers are feeling that pressure, cost of living. There's all this negative talk around money at the minute. And what we're again is there's still a responsible way to have the travel that you love. When we were building the brand and we were looking at the messaging and how do we get this across, something that we always looked at was, you picture yourself, you're at the end of your beautiful 7-day holiday with your family, and you see the one family sitting, there's the dad with the family, it's his last day of the holiday, and he starts the pressures of how he needs to pay off the finance in this holiday. You can see that happening, right? So he's having his beers, but he's stressing out. And the PlanPay customers not. They're having their beers and they're enjoying it because he knows he gets home tomorrow and everything's already been paid off. So that's what we want to offer to consumers, is that no financial hangover, no debt, no credit, no late penalty fees, and you can never be more liable for what you've already paid. So just I think it's the absolutely smartest way to pay.
Awesome. How did you get involved with PlanPay?
Interesting. So I was with TripAdvisor. I was the managing director for the Fork, the APAC region, again, a B2B, B2C business. And I was approached by a headhunting firm to possibly think about joining as the CEO of Play Travel. And I'd spoken to my wife and I said, the next career move that I make is I'd like to start my own business. I had a few travel ideas that I had and I wanted to explore. I went and I had the chat with the TVL guys and they said, look, why don't you come and build a business with us instead of having to just go out and build on your own? So you still get to be an entrepreneur, but you are getting the backing of a great fund. So that made the decision a lot easier. And just working with TVL, the board of TVL, great experience, a lot of the Afterpay founders, the people who've been on the journey with Afterpay from the beginning. I'm lucky enough, last week I got to spend 2.5 hours with Ant Eisen and just deep dive into the business model with them, talk to the challenges I'm going through, what they went through in the early days. Mike Jeffries of the board, my chairperson, Sophie Carsis, was there in the early days from Touch Corp. She's on the TVL board and she's now the chair of the PlanPay board. So a lot of that experience gave me the one to join this business and then to drive it forward with them.
How's it turned out expectation-wise? Is it what you thought it might be?
Yes and no. I've played small parts or entrepreneurial parts before in businesses, started up a few, exited some small ones. But this is the true entrepreneurial journey for me, and it has been a much bigger roller coaster than I thought it was going to be. I believe every startup founder in the world at the minute goes to bed going, 99% of startups fail. And then the next morning you're going to wake up and you're going to go, but not me, not today. Yeah. And you do it again that night and the same saying every morning. That's the life at the minute. So we are challenged every day, but we believe 1,000,000% in the product that we have, and the team that I have building this with me gives me that confidence to continue every day.
How have you gone about building such a good team?
Through the networks that I've managed to build in Australia. So as an example, when I took over, we started looking at the technology stack, what was being built. The foundations of PlanPay was already underway, but it was being built outsourced through Vietnam. Through my days at TripAdvisor, I was lucky enough to work with Jeff Lewis. Jeff was one of the early CTOs of Viator, the largest tours and experiences company globally. It was acquired by TripAdvisor for, $500 million. He'd built that out to, $4 billion turnover business. Prior to COVID, he'd left. I asked him to come on board as a consultant. He started to love what we were doing, and he said to me, Gary, I'll join the business, but you're going to make me two promises. One, we can stop outsourcing in Vietnam and we can build the team in Sydney when the engineers here. And two, we throw away any of the tech that's currently been built and we start from scratch and we build a proper, scalable, safe, great technology platform. So we've done that. I've been extremely lucky. We've built a team I've got 14 engineers in Sydney, and all of them have been through referrals through the engineers that we've hired. And then that is escalated across the team. From the marketing team, everyone who's joined has been through someone who was already there, through finance. So that network has really gives me great confidence in the team we've built, that they're promoting that to either ex-colleagues or to friends and again, come and join this business. There's something special happening.
Yeah. How many people is the business now?
27 based in Sydney. I've got an engineering manager out in Wagga Wagga. So it's great.
See, the one that refuses to come into the office.
Absolutely. But it's great because, he has his days where he loses that connection that we have in the office, and I've just got to remind him about it and go, Aaron, sometimes you are sitting in a small office in Wagga Wagga. The problems seem bigger than they are, and you miss that opportunity to just solve it quickly in the office environment. What
kind of culture have you been building at PlanPay?
The culture that we've been building is one where we're allowing the team to build it. So we haven't put any words on the wall. From day one, speaking to the leadership team, I said, we're not going to force our values or come up with values, what it's going to be, what the culture is going to be. The team's going to decide it. And we've let that thrive. And what's coming through is we have got a culture where people want to see other team members succeed. They care for each other. They value what they bring to the business. They're innovative and they're challenging. So the difficult part has been working with the entire organization again. Okay, how do we now define this incredible culture that we've built? Because we don't want to just throw words at it. I think every team member here really wants to see everyone else succeed. But at the same time, we have been very specific that instead of building an environment where we wanted similar people, we wanted to build, I keep talking about assembling the suicide squad. They might create tension, but they're great at their skill set. So let's bring them together, and that tension actually creates greatness. So it's not about being the happiest team all the time. It's about being the team that's trying to achieve the best.
As, I guess, the ultimate leader of the group, how do you then deal with instances that there's a violation of values even though you don't have them set? Well, how do you kind of put those boundaries in place that people know, look, there's a line?
I think so. We have a hybrid work culture at the minute, sort of, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days in the office, Monday, Friday, work from home. I'm not someone who goes and sits away in the office. I like to walk around the floor. I like to have banter with the teams. If I see something happening, I think we address it really quickly, and we just address it as adults. I think you don't have to have a structured approach all the time unless it's a really big issue. So it's just bringing the team members together or bringing someone aside and going, let's have a coffee. Maybe that team member didn't appreciate what you were saying or how you approached it. Can you think of approaching it a different way? And if yes, then you're happy to go grab a coffee and solve it. Yeah. So we've had those challenges as a team. We've had those challenges as a startup. The team sort of resolves it. And what's great is you've got this community that's resolving those issues. It doesn't even get to my level. I might find out 3 weeks later that someone had a conversation with someone and they've resolved it, which has been great for me. I get to focus on the things that really move the dial as a leader, and the business as usual has really been driven by that team.
How have the engineers responded to coming into the office 3 days per week?
I think they've loved it. We've got a diverse, we have the French, Sri Lankan, Australian, there's multiple nationalities. What we do is we try really drive engagement on the days that they're here. We're making sure that, they've always got stand-ups every day, but making sure that when they're in the office, they're having the stand-ups together. We're having coffees, we have lunches together. I'm just trying to make the environment fun and engaging, and that should be what attracts them, and making sure that what they're building is challenging them. And we can see that, right? So we've just had a really big release. There was 2 to 3 weeks of intense pressure with the engineering team. But what was great is we could see the rest of the business sort of standing around them and supporting them and getting them to that release. And then it's about how do we celebrate those wins with the team. So, 3 weeks ago, we were out at North Sydney on the bowling greens, just having a good day, good lunch, beers and a bit of a bowl and a session. So it's just driving those kinds of opportunities as the team.
How have you found as a leader being able to, I guess, lead remotely as well? Because I think everything that you've said is confirmed by every other business leader that I've spoken with in the last 3 years. That kind of one-on-one, kind of in-person interaction just makes leading so much easier. How do you then switch where you haven't got that visibility, particularly given that you're building a platform, you're kind of relaunching the business, you've kind of pivoted and repositioned at a time where it's tough out there, right?
Absolutely. I'm in 5 days a week. So I'm here every day. We're in the office, Tankstream Labs. And surprisingly, on a Monday and a Friday, I probably still got 5 to 6 members of the team coming in. Some days more on the Monday and Friday. I found it really challenging during COVID running a business like The Fork in a restaurant industry, because that's shut. And, having 40 to 50 team members nationally, trying to engage with them all the time. So I'm a big proponent of the majority of the time should be back in office. And it's about how you make sure you utilize that time in the best possible way, allowing people flexibility. So I'm open to having discussions around maybe for the next 2 weeks, you want to really focus on working from home. That's okay. It's all about outcomes. When you need to be in, though, you need to be in. I was listening to a great, it was Diary of a CEO, the Harvard study on the 70 years on happiness. And the biggest outtake of that was human connection. And how that was impacted firstly in America in the 1950s when TV was introduced, and suddenly we stopped inviting people around to our house for dinner and we started putting ourselves into isolation. So I'm a big proponent of getting back into the office, not all the time. And it's not about watching what you do. It's not about the inputs. It's more about the outputs, but providing that flexibility to still live the life that you need to.
I think on that point as well, you shouldn't be looking to work in a startup if you want a comfortable life. And I think this is where it's probably been mixed messaging from the industry, putting on all those things to provide comfortable environments where
Absolutely. So
it's discomfort. You talked about it, right? You go to bed. Am I going to still be around? Can I pay my staff in the next 30 days? Will this work? And that is just on a loop.
Absolutely.
Like, every day.
It doesn't stop. You're always thinking cash runway. How long have we got? What can we spend? How do we spend it? The environment for capital raising at the minute is just, it's dry.
Yeah.
It's not the right time to go out and raise capital if you can. It's all about building businesses profitably, sustainably. I think I'm very lucky that I've come into my first real entrepreneurship role, a big one at the age of 45. So I've got a lot of history behind me. So I've always been responsible for P&Ls, for hitting EBITDA, for running profitable businesses, and I've applied the same thinking to what we're building. We didn't scale and grow the team massively straight away. We've always been frugal with that spend. But yeah, the people that we bring in, something that I always talk about in interviews, and you can ask every single one of my staff members when we sit down and I begin an interview conversation, I say to them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be extremely honest with you. You're going to do the same with me. And in 6 months' time, we're going to sit down and hold each other accountable. So I'm not going to promise you the world. I'm not going to say this is the best job and you're going to achieve all of these things. I'm going to be absolutely honest about where we are as a business. You need to do the same with me around your skill sets and what you're looking for, so that we can look each other in the eye in 6 months' time at the end of the probation period and go, you were honest and I was honest.
Yeah.
It is a tough environment, and you need to be able to, as someone working in the startup, you need to know that at any single time funding could be pulled from the people who are investing in that business. We need to absolutely know, and you have to believe 1,000,000% in the concept, but at the same time, you have to understand that customers might not actually want what you're building. And that's just the honest truth.
Yeah.
So everything is a hypothesis until it really takes off and then it flies. So we're all just trying to build that dream until it really gets that traction.
That level of transparency in the interview, do you find that it kind of rules 9 out of 10 people who come along for an interview?
I think by the time I'm sitting in the interview with people, they've already been ruled out. So I always let my teams do the first and the initial, and I'll say to them, if you believe that it's someone you want to work with, they have the skill set, then let me do that final interview with them. But you can see the shift in people's mindset during that, and they might start talking themselves out of the job in the interview at that point in time. And I'm like, great, we'd rather end it there. Thank you very much. Go find the right environment for you. This isn't it. Self-selection
is actually the most powerful recruitment process I know of.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it comes down to, when you're having performance management too, I've always been a proponent for having courageous conversations and just being honest and going, we're both human. This isn't just, this role might not be the right role for you. You could go into another environment and absolutely thrive. So it's not about you being bad at what you do. It's just not the right role for you. And a lot of the times, again, it's self-selection where someone goes, yeah, you're right. I don't want to be here. I'll go find that environment. So
this is your first kind of foray, not only into startups, but fintech as well. What's your kind of overall view of the industry here in Oz, Gary?
I believe it's thriving. I think there is great support from the government. I think, 12 months ago, it was obviously a lot easier, and there was a lot of FOMO money being thrown around. I do still think inside, and I don't just say Australia, I think inside startups and entrepreneurship, a lot of people want to be a founder or be a startup because it's cool, right? So they're willing to take unnecessary risk. I think there's this belief, everyone says, your third startup will be your most successful one. You have to have 2 failures. So people are just prepared to go and fail, thinking that's where they'll learn and the third one will be great. I don't think that's the right mindset. You should always be working to succeed or choosing ideas that you believe has a chance to succeed. I think if you're playing, especially in your first few startups, if you played around with friends and family's money and you're losing that, that's not a great way to start a business. So I think people have to realize that being an entrepreneur isn't cool. It's a lot of work. Failing isn't cool. It's a lesson. And then really driving good decisions based off that. It's the environment is supportive. Tankstream Labs has been absolutely brilliant. We get to network with hundreds of other startups within the space and in the environment. And I do think a key thing within the environment, there's a lot of great mentors. So it's your ability to go and find someone or a couple of advisors that you can spend time with that have built a business, been in this environment. And I've got that. I've surrounded myself with 4 or 5 key advisors that I can, either just go have a beer with and have a bit of a whinge, and they're more like my work wife, or there's times when I really need guidance and advice on what the best way to on that next strategic move is. So that's been a godsend for me, is surrounding myself with the right advisors.
Yeah, look, and good mates with Brad, CEO of Tankstream Labs, and they've been authentic from day one.
Absolutely.
Just really supportive of the ecosystem and just really good people.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Now, what's next for PlanPay?
World domination.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear.
We are lucky in that we are focusing on the travel space. So we've built a global company from day one. So multi-currency, working on multilingual, being able to operate in various payment forms around the world, work in various verticals, so airlines, hotels, cruises, tours and activities, and online travel agents. We've also shifted, and that's through demand, we've shifted into the offline space through travel agents, and now we've just launched wedding venues and event space. So there was just a demand from the hotels going, people are paying $130,000 for a wedding. They're booking it 2 years in advance. Could they pay that off? And you go, yeah, great, use the product. We are innovating based on what merchants and consumers are telling us. So we've been smart about how we build. We don't want to just go, let's 50 bells and whistles. So the 2 key things that we'll be launching next is group bookings. So it's really important in the travel space to be able to, a group of 8 want to go away together, be able to purchase your travel and then to all pay towards it. So group bookings, and then also gifting. So, you get married, you want to go on your honeymoon, you build out a big package and allowing family and friends to contribute towards that as your gift. So there's a lot of traction right now and discussions happening in the UK and Europe, because like you were saying, lay-by and layaway is well known in the UK. It's just all very manual at the moment. So we've digitized it. So some great discussions happening there. So we'll be in APAC, UK, Europe, European-based business very shortly.
Brilliant.
And then world domination next.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's personally very good news for me, because my 12-year-old daughter stated that she would like to get married at Lake Como in Italy.
Oh, wow.
So I best start now.
Absolutely. That is, we'll be more than happy to help you out with that one.
Well, Gary, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Great to hear about PlanPay. Great to hear about your journey into startup world as well. Before we head off, we get lots of great talent listening to the show. Most of them, in fact, all of them, I think, are tied by one thing, and that is that they're drawn to build and be part of something and do something special. If anybody's listening and they like the sound of what you've been talking about, where can they find out about careers?
If you go into planpay.com, we've actually got a careers page linked to that. So go into that, or just email planpay.com and the team will get back to you.
Fantastic, Gary. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Superb. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Dexter.
And you can connect with me, folks, on LinkedIn and Twitter. If you're coming back, thanks so much for your support. And if you're new to the show, make sure to give us a like and a review on your podcast player of choice. Until the next episode, keep well. Fintech Chatter is produced by Tier 1 People, leaders in fintech executive search. We'll find world-class leadership talent to build world-class fintech ventures. And you can find us at tier1people.com.